Hi there, welcome back. Hope you're in a mood to learn. At any rate, the sentence type today is pretty simple. We are just trying to learn a phrase in turn and how to use it in an IELTS essay. We have done 7 types of sentences, and if you remember, we did gerund and relative clause. And in most of the sentences that we've discussed, I've explained how there is a relationship within the sentence of reason and result, action and consequence. Pause the video and notice the expansion of this sentence with gerund linking into point, reason and result. You'll notice the same relationship within this relative clause sentence. Now, as you know, in an essay, we need to explain our points. And we tend to do that by giving the reason why the point is true, the result of that point being true, an example that is an evidence to the point, reason and result, followed by a concluding statement. These are not the only types we use to explain. We can use contrast, comparison, we can use other structures as well, but this is the basic way in which you explain. Now we take this a step further. Now, reason and result may not itself be sufficient while explaining a point. Sometimes the result in itself does not touch the point completely, so we may need to take it a step further, that is, the result of a result. And to show the sequence of information, that is, how one thing takes place after another, we use in turn. We can use it directly as this in turn, or we can use which in turn, making it into a single sentence. Now, with regard to the right use of which in turn, actually you can use it like how we did the relative clause, which often refers to the whole clause before it. And when that happens, you put a comma right before which. In turn, it is not very necessary to have a comma before and after in turn. But if you want to be very accurate, yes, in turn is something that is non-essential. In fact, your sentence makes sense without in turn there. So you can put a comma before and after to show that you can remove it and still the sentence would make sense. There can be other phrases you can use in place of in turn, and that is because of that, consequently, as a result, or as a result of. But yes, when you speak about consequence and a consequence followed by a consequence, it appears more interesting with the in turn in place. And it can be pretty high scoring too, because it is a very formal expression. Now let's go back to the previous gerund linking example, and we see that there are 2 results and both connected by gerund. We can remove one of those, which is a result of a result, and put which in turn there. Now for relative clause linking, playing different roles in a team is useful for children. Why? The reason is that it can make them more versatile and efficient. Here you can think of it as a result as well, that playing different roles in a team would result in making them more versatile and efficient. So you may decide to add an in turn between which and would there, as in the last sentence you see there. Read these examples and see how the use of in turn helps you to develop your essay, to develop your point more efficiently. Firms in city centers could lose business if there is a congestion charge. Why? This is because a congestion tax encourages people to visit out-of-town shopping centers. So what? This in turn leads to a decline of customers in city centers. So unless we speak about this consequence, it does not come back to the point, that is, losing business. We typically give an example as well. As per some report in newspapers, such associated fall in sales has been noted in cities like London after the introduction of congestion pricing. So this is proof to the explanation, this is proof to the point. Examples may often be followed by a concluding statement that binds your example right back to the point.
Very often, the example in itself clearly explains the point and the explanation.
But sometimes it's not so closely tied, and so you may use a concluding statement. Now look at these sentences. The young and the old often cannot communicate well with each other because of major differences in perspective. This leads to a lack of understanding between them, which in turn causes communication breakdown. In fact, one way to explain your point efficiently is to think and ask yourself why. Why is it that the young and the old cannot communicate with each other? If the reason in itself is not sufficient, explain it further with a result. What is the result of the difference in perspective? And if that doesn't still reach to the main point that you were making, you can further explain it with a further result, which finally leads to the point. This lack of understanding in turn causes communication breakdown. So communication breakdown comes back to your point. So essentially, like the domino effect, when you're explaining one consequence after another, you tend to use in turn. Pause the video and see the difference that the use of in turn brings to a sentence. So you see where this can really prove useful. If you use it, you stand a chance of not only showing full explanation, which you know is very important in IELTS, but also demonstrating your ability to use this formal structure. We have done now 8 sentence types and you're pretty much ready for your IELTS essay. We have discussed conclusions as well in previous videos when we dealt with contrast and parallel sentences. So you're pretty much ready. However, I did promise you 14 types of sentences and I will continue with that, but after a short break for some reading tips. So see you soon. Bye-bye.